So I woke up with this on my mind. See if I could tie it all together. I found a shirt at a secondhand store that I liked. I don't even think I have it anymore. It said Filthy McNasty. I just liked the shirt and what it said at the time just kind of caught my eye. I didn't know that was the original name of the Viper Room. When I found that out, I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. What a coincidence. I used to have a shirt like that. That'd probably be a collector's item if I still have it. I don't even think I still have it. It's a shame. So I started thinking about names. And then this moron Dan Bongino popped into my mind. Because he made a post on his stupid little show calling himself the Podfather. And I'm all about giving respect where respect is due. But in all due respect, there's only one Podfather. It's the original, right? The one that kind of started it all. And that title goes to Adam Curry. I know a lot of you probably think I probably would have said Joe Rogan, since he's the most known podcaster in the world. But Joe Rogan only exists because of Adam Curry. And he'll even say that. He said it many times on his show. Him and I think Tom Green. But really Adam Curry, I think, is the original Podfather if you look into it. Ask Joe. He'll even give it up. So giving respect where respect is due is very important. And lowering one's level of arrogance is also very important. So if you're going to call yourself something, you better be darn sure that that's what you are. And you better have the credentials to back it up. And Dan Bongino, if anything, is not in any position to be calling himself the father of anything other than a bunch of bullshit. So, that's my thoughts on that. Guess that's going to be the topic for today, is being fake. Don't be fake in any capacity. Own up to who you are and have a sense of humility when it comes to your accomplishments. Know your role. Don't be the type of person that claims to be things you are not, or have done things that you haven't quite done. Or even if you were a part of something, don't exaggerate your role in the experience. I'm guilty of that. I've done that. We've all done that. But it's better if you just know your role, accept your role, and talk about your experience from that perspective, the role you played. Like when I worked at a rescue, I was a huge part of it. And I'd like to think, the ego in me wants to think that a big reason that rescue got the kind of traction it did was because I was there. I was literally there every day. Every day. A lot of the volunteers became pretty close during that time anyways. And we became a staple. Me and my girlfriend. And when I say we, it was me and my girlfriend. But I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't us that made that rescue huge. It was what the rescue was doing that made it huge. It was the rescue itself. It wasn't me. I was just part of it. But when you become part of something that becomes big, and when you become good at doing something within the context, like me, I became really good with the dogs, and it was noticed, and it became known that I was the one that was chosen to go train with Cesar Millan, so I became noticed. But it wasn't me that made that rescue. That rescue made itself. It was the dogs that made the rescue. The dogs made me. It wasn't the other way around. I didn't make these dogs better. These dogs made me better. And in return, the dogs became better. I changed because of dogs. The dogs changed because of me. It was a cyclical relationship that benefited both ways. And if people approach their lives the same way, with a little bit more humility, and accept the fact that you aren't, no one's self-made. There's no such thing as a self-made man. Everybody had some sort of contribution by somebody else to help make them who they are today. All these people who are revered in the world right now, the Elon Musks of the world, the Peter Thiels, even the Joe Rogans of the world. His podcast, Joe Rogan, perfect example. He has an amazing podcast, and his ability to interview people is very high level. But without his followers and viewers, he doesn't have a podcast that's known. Right? It takes the viewers. It takes the word of mouth. Hey, have you seen this podcast? It's so good. Right? Elon Musk doesn't get made without other people around Elon Musk. He didn't even invent Tesla. If you look into that, Elon Musk is not the creator of Tesla. Who else? Bill Gates and Windows. Apple came first, right? He was inspired by, even if you absolutely created something out of nothing, chances are you were inspired by something else. So give respect where respect is due. Steve Jobs was the first, that I know of, in terms of the computer. Then came Windows, but I'm even sure that Steve Jobs got his inspiration from someone else. Everyone is inspired by someone else. We all have constant streams of incoming stimuli, external stimuli coming into our minds that give us ideas. They don't just come out of nowhere. Very, very rare that something comes out of absolutely nowhere. And even if it didn't come from a person, it came from the environment. And even if it didn't come from the environment, it comes from what people like to term God. Divinely inspired, divine inspiration. So I think it's a little better to everybody just pump your brakes, understand that you are not an island unto yourself. There are others that contributed to your success, to your level of ability, even if it was just a whisper in the ear. It may not have been an outright mentor, but at least a whisper in the ear is enough. Right? One stone can cause a whole avalanche. That's why it's very important, the type of energy you put out in the world. How are you inspiring people? Are you inspiring people by your example as a good person? Or are you inspiring people as an example of a bad person? Do people look at you and be like, man, I never want to be like that? Or do people look at you and think, man, I hope my kids grow up to be just like that? That's very important. Inspiration goes both ways. It's either attractive or repulsive. And I would like to think there are, I would hope that one day people are so self-aware. I'm gonna let this guy in. Go ahead. I would hope that people are so self-aware one day that they would seek to put out more good than bad. They'll watch their words, that they would be more constructive with their attitude, and more intentional with their thoughts and actions. All right, don't be absent-minded with how you go through life. Outliers. Try to be an outlier. You know, it's okay to go with the flow, but at certain times, try something different. Do something new. Try to be a little less them and a little more you. I think that's important. We don't have enough of that in this world. We have enough followers. We don't have enough leaders. Because leadership comes with huge responsibilities. And I don't think a lot of people want that on their plate. Especially, you know, everybody's lives are so complicated and so busy. I don't have time to have enough responsibilities. I don't need the responsibility of a leader. That's fair. That's fair. It's not for everyone. But if you seem to have the capacity for leadership, you should step fully into that role and embrace it. You were given a gift. Not everybody can be a leader. Everybody can be a follower. Matter of fact, everybody is a follower. I don't even think, even if the world was under one ruler, I think even in the end, that ruler would be guided by some sort of innate intuition. You know, the most creative people in the world, they've all stated that there's some sort of level of inspiration that's not quite them. That's where divine inspiration comes back into play. So as leaders, even then, you're not 100% in control. You must be open to the universe giving you whispers on how best to guide your followers. That's why ego needs to be curbed. You can't be an open leader if you have a closed ego. It just doesn't work that way. Because your followers will know. The followers can sense. Only the completely blind and what would be the word? Brainwashed? No. Innocently ignorant. Let's take Trump for an example. He has the capacity for leadership, but he's got a huge ego. And only time will tell whether or not this country will benefit from his ego. You know, when it comes to this experience, I believe that when it comes to energy, good in, good out. The energy you put in to your experience is the energy you're going to get out of it. If you're a bad person putting out bad energy, you are going to get bad results back at you. But then the universe works in a weird way also. Completely good people will have terrible things happen to them. That's when I think the universe is testing you. Are you going to break? Are you going to continue to be a good person even under the worst circumstances? I, for one, will continue to be good under bad circumstances. I refuse to allow this experience to break me. I'm going to keep being who I am. I don't like to boast about being a good person, but I know that I'm not a bad person. I don't wish evil upon others. I don't like to see people fail. I like to see people win. I like to see people improve. I like to see people grow. I don't get jealous. Or, oh, well, how come I didn't get that promotion? That should have been me. I don't care. What I have is what I appreciate. And what others have and what they gain, I cheer on. Good for you, man. That is so cool. I am glad that happened for you. That's the kind of person I am. And I think that the world needs a little bit more of that. Social media hasn't helped. Turned everybody into a bunch of haters. It's easy to be a hater on social media. Just go into the comments, you'll see. I'm guilty, I do it. I got a little troll in me, a little demon that likes to troll. Working on it. But yeah, it's haterism is encouraged. Which is a shame. It's just more divide and conquer. It's more you against I. Famine mentality. Like there's not enough to go around. There's plenty to go around of everything. There's no lack of anything. That's all nonsense. That's to keep you in a state of constant anxiety. Although I think a small level of anxiousness is good. Keeps your edge going. You don't want to become too dull. A dull knife is useless. You need to stay sharp. Sometimes a small amount of self-induced anxiety is worth it. You know, that's how you propel yourself forward to gain more and attain more. The moment you settle, the moment you stagnate, I kind of think that's it. You've accepted that this is your limit. You've reached it. No more than this. And just like water, stagnation will eventually welcome in parasitic growth. Right? Standing water gets green with algae, and all types of things start to live in it. That's the perfect example. You don't want to be like standing water. You want to be like a rushing river, fresh and clean, always in motion, always doing, always being, at least always seek to be. Right? You may not attain, but it's the seeking that you want. What is it saying? It's not the... What is that saying? It's not the destination, it's the journey. And once you reach that destination, you're supposed to pick a new one. Alright, achieve that. On to the next destination. Reach that goal. Alright, another goal. This is how life is supposed to be conducted. You're not supposed to get comfortable. Don't get comfortable with being comfortable. That should make you uncomfortable. Save that until the end of life, at least. You've done so much and the body's broken down so much that you can't do anymore. Alright, then get comfortable. But while you're able-bodied, do and keep doing. Right? Go hard or go home. Save going home until you're old. Then you can rest. Alright, you've done enough. We'll take care of you now. That's how society should be. If anybody gets taken care of, it's the old people that came before you and blazed the trail for you to conveniently and comfortably walk on. You didn't have to do the heavy lifting. It was done for you. Now you just get to walk the well-worn trail of life. You get to see where the tracks go. You didn't have to walk through the high brush. It's already been beaten down for you. That's why these younger generations, mine included, every generation's guilty of this, has the convenience of the lessons learned by the generation before them. And if you're smart and you're listening, you'll learn from those generations so you don't repeat mistakes that were already made. Like this whole anti-Semitic thing. It's such a... I know it's the most sensitive topic to talk about, and it's hard to even talk about it without people calling you racist or anti-Semitic. But there's a level of responsibility that some groups don't take when it comes to the amount of negative attention that they get. And this goes back to biblical times. And as much as people want groups to be intermixed, right? But some groups are allowed to stay very segregated. The Jews being one of them. I'm sorry to have to say it. That's kind of the way it is. If any other group behaved in the way that the Jews behave, there would be issues, especially white people. Oh man. If white people were as close-knit and as segregated from the rest of society as the Jewish community, there would be hell to pay. You would hear Nazi and white supremacy and all kinds of stuff until the cows come home. It would never end. But since there's a history of the Jewish people being persecuted, they seem to be allowed to do what they do. And what do? They are historical misers, mentally, economically. They're very close-knit. They work with they tend to only work with each other. It's known. It's not a bad thing. Good for them. They network well. We have a lot to learn from them. But man, the moment there's a level of seclusion and secrecy. What secrecy? People ask. How are the Jews secret? The Talmud has some very interesting teachings that they like to deny as part of their religion, but the Talmud exists. And it's a very interesting thing to read. So there seems to be a bit of hypocrisy there when it comes to how society allows certain groups to be and other groups are not allowed. People like to say, oh, because they've been historically persecuted. You know what? At some point in history, every group has been persecuted by some other group. No one has the monopoly on persecution, historical persecution. Before the written word, before text, who knows what went down? We only know history from the perspective of written text. The oral tradition, the oral history of humanity is gone. And now we're at the mercy of who wrote what first. That's why religion tends to have a monopoly on the history of humanity. And that's why there's so much religious conflict, because religions write different things. Right? The Christian Bible, the Jewish Torah, and the Talmud. What's the Islamic book? I can't think of it right now. But the Book of Islam. They all have a different version of history. And that's what's so contentious. It really has nothing to do with whose God is going to be worshipped, but whose history is going to be accepted. That's what it's really about. And with that comes the God that will ultimately be accepted as the one true God. Once all this religious stuff plays out, and it eventually will one day. Probably not in my lifetime or in the next 2 or 3 generations, lifetimes, but eventually there will be one religious order. Even if that order comes out of the current religions destroying themselves, or the world turning their back on these religions, and they'll just die out of their own lack of spiritual nutrients. Then they'll come up with some sort of secular religion that's deemed acceptable for the world to accept. It'll be very nebulous, it'll be very vague and ethereal, but it will acknowledge some sort of divine creator in a very vague and general form. And it will lay down some rules and regulations for humanity to live by, some do's and don'ts. That'll happen. And then that'll be the religion going forward. But there will be always a religion, because man will always wonder where this all came from. And as much as the atheists want to deny the existence of a creator or a God, as people tend to use the word, it'll never change the fact that this is very mystical, this experience. There's a very interesting spiritual part to this experience that's undeniable. As much as the atheists want to deny it, it's there. The fact that there's something inside this organic body of mine right now talking, what is that? Why don't other animals do that? Right? All things being equal, right? As much as evolution wants to be correct, why didn't other animals evolve the way the human animal did, right? If we came from apes, why isn't there an equally developed animal from the canid family, right? The dogs. Canis familiaris. All things being equal, why didn't they develop? Well, because of our brain. Well, their brains aren't all that much different. I think it's something else. And even if human brains are different, there's still an animating principle in all animals. There's still that little spark of life that makes them move. They're not like rocks, right? Or trees. Even trees. This is why ancient tribes revered nature. They acknowledged spirits within trees and plants and rocks, right? That's why gems, crystals, they all have an energetic blueprint. There's something there, right? Crystals grow. It's very interesting, all this. This whole experience is very interesting, and I don't think it comes from nothing, just a great big nothing. That seems like a very willfully ignorant position to take. There is no God. Really? There's nothing? Absolutely nothing? Then what is this? What is this experience you're having? I've yet to hear what an atheist explain what this, even try to attempt to explain what this experience is. I wake up every day thinking about what this experience is. Here I am again. As soon as my eyes pop open, right? Here's this thing again. Let's see what happens in this thing today. That's why I put this camera on. I pop this sucker on and see what comes out of my head. What kind of thoughts come from where? And these are the things that I think about on my ride to work. It takes about half an hour to get there, so you guys are getting half-hour videos at a time. I'm almost there. About to get off on my exit. I hope I didn't insult anybody with my rambling. I know I got a little sensitive with the Jewish topic. Everybody wants to get sensitive. No one wants to have a conversation rationally, logically. Sit down, let's talk about it. Nope. Everybody's emotionally charged. That's what happens when you conduct your life from the perspective of feelings only. Too much feeling, not enough thought. It needs to be a very healthy balance of the two. You you can only be compassionate through the lens of feeling. You can only be radical and rational through the lens of thinking, thoughts. And if you're not the two, if you're imbalanced in any way, if you're too rational and logical, you become Hitler, right? Zero compassion. Or one-way compassion. There's a level of universal compassion that must be had. You have to be able to see everybody's perspective and understand why everybody is the way they are. That's what caused Kanye West to say what he did about Hitler. Like he loves Hitler, like there's things about Hitler that he loves. That's what he said. That's what got him in trouble. You'd have to understand what makes a man like Hitler become. What did he see during his time? What did he see happening to his people? Did he act the right way? No. Was his actions and the ultimate outcome of who Hitler is, was that good? No. But there are steps that create a human to be who they are. And maybe if we analyze those steps, we could avoid that in the future. But no, everybody just wants to say Hitler bad. But why? Why did he become bad? Maybe we should look at that. What was going on around him? What was going on in his head? Maybe if you seek to understand a person and you understand why they became the way they were, you will understand why they did the things they did, and then you can go on to teach, okay, this is what happened. We shouldn't go down this road because it'll create people like this, and then those people will do things like that, and humanity doesn't benefit from it. That's what I think. I think you should shine light on evil and seek to understand it. But here's the rub. In the course of seeking to understand evil, you run the risk of embodying it. Because sometimes if your mind isn't properly formed, people who understand why Hitler, for an example, you run the risk of starting to agree with why he did what he did. I think that's the scary part that people are trying to avoid. I think some people's minds aren't ready to understand why people like Hitler do the things they do, because then they start to agree with the actions they took. It doesn't stop at, okay, I understand why he thought what he thought. Then it starts to get into, okay, yeah, what he did was probably the right thing to do. That's wrong. That's scary, and that I get. So seek understanding, but beware of becoming that which you seek to understand. I think that would be my message for the day. As I park my car and as I go to work. All right, let's go to work.